Hello and welcome to the Selectmen's Meeting for May 20th, 2014. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Could I get a roll call, please?
Carolyn Smart, present.
Colin McNabb, present.
And Sue Licio, present. I would like to announce that the meeting is being tape recorded. Chairman's additions or deletions, it's possible we will not have number 6, which was the planned executive session. To our knowledge, they're not planning on coming, but if they do show up, we'll continue with that. The other thing is we may move 3.6, which is the discussion of the Hart Library, up to after 2.2. Okay, just because we want to give the properties folks a chance to talk about that one without having to stay, unless of course they want to. Do you want to skip down and do a couple of these?
Yeah, you could do the Chapter 90.
Okay, 3.1, review Chapter 90 project request submitted by Ed Kukla, Highway Superintendent. A, mill and surface a portion of Mason Road. Mill and surface a portion of, there's two. B.
Two different putts.
Okay. And C, mill and surface a portion of Shirley Road. Could I have a motion?
I would move that we approve the Chapter 90 request submitted by Ed Kukla, Highway Superintendent, to mill and resurface a portion of Mason Road in the amount of $52,880, to mill and resurface a portion of Mason Road in the amount of $63,853, and to mill and resurface a portion of Shirley Road in the amount of $28,061.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions? Yes.
I've got a question. Do you just have the prices, or does Ed have any idea when that's going to be done?
These will be done, the target is to do these before the end of the fiscal year.
Oh, okay, all right, thanks.
Any other questions?
I'll get some deeds, so.
If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. State kind of makes you sign your life away, huh?
The intent is to do it before the fiscal year, so before June 30th.
This'll take 5 minutes. Chapter 90.
That's the accountant.
Yeah, well. Can't read with my glasses on, Colin. Let me take them off. May I go forward? You okay?
Yes.
All right. 3.2, review request from Ed Kukla, Highway Superintendent, to extend material bids contracts.
We did Ed did a 3-year procurement with a 1-year contract with 2 extensions. We extended last year, and he's asking to extend these contracts 1 more year.
It's got to go out to bid next year, right?
Yes.
For full bid. Okay, I would move to approve the FY15 material bid as a contract extension. Do you want me to outline each?
I think you could just make reference to the memo.
As submitted by Ed Kukla, Highway Superintendent, and attached to the minutes.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any other questions? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, I have 7:05, and we have a meeting with the Board of Water Commissioners and Superintendent Paul Rafuse to discuss 2 items. Item A is Water Department collections, discuss the recommendations of the independent auditors and the Department of Revenue financial management review to transfer a collection to the town collector. Thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
I guess I would ask, I know that this has been in discussion for a while, and I'm wondering if someone in your area has looked at what sort of cross charges, if you will, would be incurred for this sort of activity. I know that, you know, it would take people time, office time, whatever, to do something like this. And so I was hoping that we could get a grasp on what it would cost for the water takers, or for the water department to do this sort of thing. If someone has thought about some of the logistics that would be involved, and mechanisms of how to implement it. And I know that we've also been looking into a lockbox situation, bank lockbox situation, and how that would or would not be able to be dovetailed together and so forth. So I'm hoping to be able to take back some information to digest and come up with some kind of succinct process that meets all the guidelines it needs.
Okay, do you have a quorum, by the way?
We do. We have all three members here, yes.
Okay.
I was late.
Oh, it was just a minute. You're okay, Mike.
Okay.
Andy, did we look into any potential
We didn't do
cross-charge?
a breakdown of the cross charges that would be incurred. We've got existing staff at in the collector's office. We may have to supplement that to some degree. We're not sure to what extent we would have to do that. Certainly the utilization of a lockbox service would help in that regard. We're implementing lockbox on the tax side. We would want to do the same if water collections came over. At this point, I think we're trying to get a sense of if the commissioners are willing to make the changes that the Department of Revenue and the auditors have recommended.
I mean, I was told that your board had previously discussed it. Now, I know the board's changed in makeup. Paul, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, obviously, my intention, my opinion, is to comply with the audit and DOR. And whether it wouldn't matter to me if it went to the tax collector or a lockbox. The only reason I would prefer it go to a lockbox would be what I have found is more benefits that could be acquired through a lockbox system. I don't know what I believe the tax collector would just take the water bills and somehow transfer it to our account, and we would have to apply it to each account from there. That's the uncertainty that maybe Niles was talking about. But in my research into lockbox services is that there's several benefits. We could tailor it to what we need for reports. We would be provided picture PDFs of envelopes as well as checks that have come in. Also, in my contact with, I think, Heather Titman from Eastern Bank, is that they have an IT person to develop a program that would actually take the payments and apply it to specific accounts within our billing program. So several advantages, in my opinion, that a lockbox service would provide.
Andy, the lockbox that we're going to be having for the taxes, for the tax collection, can you just explain again how that works? I know it's set up through the bank.
Correct. So when people receive their bills, their property tax or their excise tax bills, they receive an envelope that goes with it. They put their check and their stub in the envelope, they mail it back. It doesn't come here. It goes to a central processing center in where the bank is located. That is, there are a number of them. It could be Medford, it could be Reading, Stoneham in that area. The bank takes those, they get automatically opened, scanned, the charges get assigned to or the payment gets assigned to the account, and we receive a batch file with all of that information. That goes directly into our finance software. Those accounts get credited. So it's fairly seamless on our end. The same would happen with water collections if we go in that route.
So-
Whether we move things to the collector's office or the water department continues to collect them.
Okay, so it's a separate lockbox for each because they have to go to a different account?
They would be keyed differently. They would be coded differently so that the funds would go to the
correct
appropriate.
account.
Yeah. As money comes in now, even if it comes in as cash or check, it gets coded to whatever it's due for. If it's a building permit, it gets a code. If it's a property tax, it gets a code. If it's an excise tax, it gets a different code. So in terms of keeping the water department's enterprise funds segregated from the general fund, that's what we do that really anyways.
So Niles, your thought was to go back to your board and talk about this some more?
I'd like to see this get taken care of in a fairly short period of time as well. It's been hanging out there for a while. Paul had done a lot of research on this already, and I didn't want to shortchange his efforts, and we have, of course, Mike's not new to the Board of Water, or not new to the Water Department, but certainly Nathan is, and in fairness, in a meeting or two to get them up to speed and see how we can best resolve this to everybody's best behest.
Okay. Todd, you had a question?
I guess, questions I have, being someone outside of it looking in, is the communication back and forth between the town and the water department for their annual statisticals and stuff like that. They need some of the totals that come in when they pay, and how is that communication going to get handled? How are you going to do when the notifications of non-payment and stuff like that, for shut-offs and stuff like that? How do you intend to handle things like that?
Well, those things could be, those types of things could be worked out as we implement. Certainly the water department could continue to do the collection or the chasing down of delinquent taxpayers, ratepayers, or the collector's office can do that. We can work that out. As you know, that's a small percentage of the collections.
Actually, it's to be honest with you, in the water industry, it's becoming a bigger and bigger problem. So I would respectfully disagree with that. Also, I've talked to a bunch of water departments that do operate off enterprise, and it's about a 50-50 split on doing this. A lot of the superintendents that I talk to, excuse me, I'm sorry, feel like it's feel like that it's, again, two state departments that don't talk to each other in regards to having different, not agendas, but different goals. That a lot of the superintendents that have kept the accounting and have talked to the administrator, and they go and they talk to the auditor, and you and I have had this discussion on time and again, and we are on direct opposite posts of the conversation. But if it's not broke right now, There's no malfeasance. You haven't, the enterprise fund, from my interpretation, was that it was supposed to be separate from the town so that that the water infrastructure and stuff like that would be funded and be separate from regular town hall operating procedures and things like that. That was the intent of water districts and the enterprise account. So someone looking in, and I'm not a water taker, I'll be honest up front, but I do work in the water utility field. I'd be, like I said, if it's not broken, it's not gonna cost you any money to stay as is. Why go fix something that we have a lot of other things that could be addressed, I guess. But Paul said he doesn't have a problem with it, Niles doesn't have a problem with it. The only concern I would have is the communication back and forth on the non-payments and stuff for annual statistical.
Yeah, and certainly we'd have to work out issues like that. In terms of the purpose of the enterprise statute, it wasn't to separate the enterprise department from the town, it was to separate the enterprise funds from the general fund. The water department's a department of the town, just like the library and the building commissioner and anybody else.
No, I agree.
But it was to separate the funds so that the ratepayer funds would be dedicated solely for the business unit. Whether it's, and enterprises come in lots of styles.
Sewer, stormwater, everything, yes, I
Yep.
understand.
And then in terms of, it's not broke, don't fix it, true, we haven't had a sniff of a problem. We have no reason to assume that there's anything going on there that shouldn't be happening. The DOR and the auditors have simply pointed out that when you have the same department that's committing bills, collecting bills, and abating, you open yourself up to problems. Nobody's accusing anybody of anything.
But there's a separate accounting that it's.
Hold on, Todd.
Yes, ma'am.
Let him finish, please.
So there's, it's just, we look at best practices. You look at best practices, you may not have any, we're gonna have a conversation in a few minutes about the swimming regulations. We can argue that there have been no problems in Townsend that would require the need for any additional regulations for water supply. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't have regulations. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't have groundwater protection districts or aquifer protection regulations, things like that.
Yep.
Whether we've had a problem or we haven't had a problem, it's a good practice, and that's all this is aimed at.
Okay, I understand that part of it. It just, with water, there's an additional accounting principle where you're accounting for the water. If the numbers that you build don't add up to what you've collected, it's fairly easy for the state to pick it up.
Right.
I'd like to just add one thing, and that is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, doesn't really apply here, because it is broke. It's broke in terms of the audit report. It's a blemish, if you will, on our audit for a couple of years running now. And that's what we want to fix. Okay, so, whatever the solution is, and there's going to be details that are going to have to be worked out, and how we're going to do it, lockbox, who's going to do what, how to, what's the division of responsibility, what's the, the chargeback or whatever we call it, that would need to be worked out. But the reality is we're trying to fix it, and that's why the commission is here today. So we can, I don't want to belabor it. I'll be with you in a second, Andrea. I don't want to belabor it, but I want this to move forward too. So is it your plan, is it your intention to meet, discuss this, and then come back to us?
I would think we'll probably put it on the next agenda and the following one if it's not resolved, and we'll just keep hammering away at it until we, we have something that we think we can work with.
What I'm asking, is there anything that we can do?
my opinion anyway, I think it would go a long way to guesstimating at least what kind of chargebacks. But having said that, I don't want him to go spinning his wheels, because if most people use the lockbox, then there's really no
It will be
impact to the
minimal,
treasurer's office.
right, it
So,
should be minimal.
I guess it's an iterative process at best.
Okay, so the main thing that we'll need from your board really is, you know, what do you want to do? Do you want to follow the recommendations? And if so, then put a little task force together between the town accountant, the town administrator, Paul. I'm sure they can work out the administrative details. Okay, Andrea, you had a question? I'm
Two
sorry.
questions. If they got their own lockbox, then it would still be in compliance, correct? As far as the auditor is concerned.
They would be, can
Go
I?
ahead.
That would certainly be an improvement over what the current practice is. In order for the material weakness to disappear from the management letter, the auditors have suggested to me that the collections would have to move to the collector's office at Town Hall. That lockbox would be helpful, would eliminate some of the risk, but wouldn't go far enough.
Well,
They-
I don't see how the difference would be.
Andrea, I think the question is that if someone wanted to come in and pay their bill, they would not be walking into the collector's office still. They would be walking into the water department office. And it's that part of it. So it's for the people that would not use that envelope.
So then along with that, then, the water department would take no more public payments at their office.
That would.
They would be all paid through the tax collector.
Correct, yeah, that's what the auditors and the Department of Revenue would like.
Okay.
Because you're never gonna, even with lockbox, you're never gonna get 100%
Well, I
compliance.
agree with that. What would be the increase on the municipal agreement to do that?
Well, that's what Niles asked, and we haven't tried to calculate
Is
that.
that what he meant by chargeback?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'd never heard the word before.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but we can try to come up with some estimate on that.
I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
Niles, one more question. When is your next meeting scheduled for?
Next,
Next Monday, is it?
yeah.
We meet every other week.
Well, Monday's the holiday, I doubt it, but.
Well,
try to do it
all
Tuesday.
right.
Second Monday of the month, whatever that date is.
Yeah.
Oh, one more thing, Sue, if I could.
Yeah.
This doesn't have to happen, immediately.
No.
The DOR raised the recommendation in 2011. The auditors have raised it in the 11, 12, and 13 audits. So it doesn't have to happen this week or, by the close of, by June 30th or something like that. I think it would be in everybody's interest to move this along. In terms of the chargeback, there would have to be some, if we did it, mid-fiscal year, there would have to be some modification, to the appropriations that address that, but that could happen, at the next town meeting.
I mean, I just want to see some action on it. That's all
Right.
I'm saying. So, if you guys meet at your next meeting and just let us know
That will
what,
be on the 9th.
what happens
Yes.
from there, okay? And then it's just kind of put together a task force, if you will, as to what needs to happen next.
Does the town have a bank in mind for,
I don't think we're there yet.
okay, all right.
We're not there yet. Those are the details that would have to get worked out.
We have actually done some numbers and gotten feedback from Eastern Bank, I think it was,
Right.
not using any commercialization here or whatever, but they've, so we would know what the cost.
Yeah, we're more interested in the high level and let the folks that deal with banks and accounts and all of that handle all of that. Did you have a question, Ron?
Yeah, I just got a question for the water department. How would they know who was delinquent if they went into a lockbox system? Would they be relating a report back to the water department on a monthly basis?
Well, essentially the same way that it happens now. If
Well,
a
but now they're
bill does,
incorporated themselves, so they already know.
right, but they'd still be getting a report of of how much money came in and what the accounts are that the payments are
Okay,
for.
on a monthly basis.
So if there's not a payment that goes with, number 1 Main Street, apologize if there's a number 1 Main Street. If there's not a payment that goes with a specific address, then that address is delinquent.
So you simply
So that
look at,
report would be
you
given
look
by
at your
the
open
person
accounts.
processing the money, right?
What's that?
They would be done by the people that are processing the money as they're coming in?
Correct. Yeah, and it would
Okay.
be,
I was
it
just
would be an
wondering if that's
automated
the way it
process.
works.
Yeah.
Okay.
We are working already with the billing software folks to be able to cross-reference those kind of issues. But like everybody else, thank you, Microsoft, we're in the middle of trying to update from one system to another and think. But anyway.
Okay. We all set on that one? Okay. Item B, Sustainable Water Management Initiative, SWIMI. Discuss proposed amendments to the Water Management Act and the potential impacts in Townsend. Paul, you gonna talk to us
I know
about
we
this?
got a long agenda, and so I'll try to be as brief as possible, but I think this is a very important issue that, you as a board and us as a board and the whole town should really be made aware of. And I'll just read from a prepared statement, if you don't mind. I'm here tonight on the behalf of the Water Department and really all Massachusetts public water suppliers to request support of the board, town officials, and the public to oppose draft regulations that will amend the Water Management Act. The Water Management Act was promulgated in 1986 by the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection, establishing a program for regulating water withdrawals in the Commonwealth. The proposed regulatory changes to the Water Management Act are the result of this Sustainable Water Management Initiative, SWIMI. The SWIMI was convened by the Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs in December of 2009 in an attempt to bring the environmental agencies, public water suppliers, and river and stream advocates together to take a comprehensive look at water resource management in Massachusetts. To accomplish this, 2 committees were formed comprised of members from each of the stakeholders. An advisory committee responsible for advising the EEA and its agencies on sustainable management of water resources that balance human ecological needs. The other was a technical subcommittee responsible to review the current science of the issues and report to the advisory committee. The primary focus was to look at ways to improve stream flows and water quality and protect and improve aquatic wildlife during the summer months. What was meant to be a collaborative effort between stakeholders who have an interest in water resources and utilize proven and emerging science to inform and guide discussion in a meaningful way. Regrettably, those expectations were not met. It is important to note that not only is the focus of the Water Management Act, whether in the original act or in the proposed amended version, to regulate water withdrawals, but manage water resources in a way that not only protects the environment and wildlife habitat, but does so in a way to maintain economic growth and development within the communities. Unfortunately, as documented and reported by water supply professionals serving on the advisory committee and technical subcommittee, discussions soon turned to focus on a predetermined outcome to solely target public water suppliers for depleting stream flows, poor water quality, and causing a threat to aquatic wildlife during the summer months. These assertions come as a result of studies and analysis performed by the United States Geological Survey and the Division of Fish and Wildlife. However, to verify the findings of the USGS DFW, the Massachusetts Water Works Association, together with several other public water suppliers, including the Townsend Water Department, retained the services of consultants with expertise in fisheries and aquatic biology as well as hydrogeology. After extensive investigation by the consultants, the findings were irrefutable that the scientific evidence compiled by the USGS DFW was either incorrect or inconclusive. It is also important to note that not only could the analysis of the USGS DFW confirm the majority of stream flow depletion was caused by withdrawals from water suppliers, but that reduced stream flows did not pose a threat to fish populations. It also should be noted that a common denominator in both analysis of the USGS DFW and the consultants on behalf of the water suppliers is that runoff from urbanization, creating increased impervious surfaces in agriculture, pose a far greater threat to aquatic life. What does this all mean in what ways will the new regulations affect communities? In order to construct and develop another well for additional withdrawal over and above permitted amounts, the DEP would require water suppliers to perform some sort of mitigation to offset the additional withdrawal. The required mitigation measures could be more stringent water conservation measures or improving stormwater drainage, constructing fish ladders, or the removal of dams. This will divert hundreds of thousands of dollars that could be used to improve and upgrade infrastructure to maintain the supply of reliable, high-quality drinking water to customers to be used on environmental projects. Once costly mitigation measures are completed, the DEP has no formulated measures to analyze if mitigating measures have in fact improved conditions in stream flow or aquatic life. To meet the demands of new regulations, water suppliers will need to raise rates and further restrict water use. Communities need to understand that if approved, the new regulations will be enforced for the next 20 years. The ability to provide an abundant, safe, high-quality drinking water at an equitable price is a major factor for communities trying to expand their tax base. The new regulations will undoubtedly affect communities in their long-range master planning and land use planning. The new water management regulations will not only impact water suppliers, they will also have a serious and detrimental implications for communities as well. Again, we request and urge the Board of Selectmen, town officials, and the public to provide comments opposing the new SWIMI Water Management Act regulations. To attention, Dwayne Levanchi, Section Chief, Mass DEP Headquarters, Boston, 1 Winter Street, Boston, Massachusetts, 02108. The comment period has been extended to July 10th, 2014. At this time, if the board would mind, I'd like to introduce Maura Callahan from Callahan Consulting. She's done extensive research for the Townsend Water Department as well as the West Groton Water Department, Water District, and she's looked into this whole swimming project in detail.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm a hydrogeologist. I work in public water supply development and permitting since 1989. I was in many of the initial studies on the task force of this swimming process until it got too complicated and the science was beginning to be manipulated when I stepped out and said I wouldn't participate any longer. But I still provide comments through the Mass Water Works. I'm on the Technical Advisory Board. How would this impact Townsend? Well, the SWIMI framework will be incorporated into the Townsend Water Management Permit at your next 20-year review. And that's scheduled currently for February 28th, 2018. They keep extending it because of the Permit Extension Act, because they're not ready. This is a changing, with all the comments and incorrect science and going back and forth. It's been a very long process and it's still not finalized, so they keep extending the renewal permits. So that's 2018. But in preparation for that, we're doing some studies in town to show the original classifications of the subbasins in which your wells are in are not very good. They're very low categories for fish and high categories for groundwater withdrawals. Didn't seem very real. So we went through and obtained all the data that USGS used. We got the real actual data reported by the water department, calculated all the averages, etc., to check all of the data that the USGS did, verify everything they've done. We also went through and found actual data to see what the conditions truly are. The USGS is basing their calculations on estimates, statewide base databases and GIS overlays and stuff. So we've done all that. And what we're seeing a lot is impervious cover, as you said, is having a big impact, and dams, obviously, fragmenting the fish habitat. However, as far as Townsend goes, you currently, the swimming regulations are based on a baseline volume. DEP has designated, everyone has calculated a baseline for you. Yours is 0.76 million gallons per day. Currently, you're withdrawing, 2012, you withdrew about 0.55 million gallons a day. So you will not be needing new water. You will not be requesting additional water, so you will not have to jump through a lot of the hoops that DEP is going to require any town who needs additional water. You are, however, and your wells are located in subbasins that are designated cold water fisheries. So even if you don't use all the water you're allocated, you don't use all your baseline data, you're going to have to minimize your impact to flows. So you're going to spend money. You're going to be doing studies, and you're going to be implementing offsets, because you need to improve the condition of the stream and reduce impacts from your groundwater withdrawals. Those are not necessarily real, and so we've come up with the data, and we are preparing ourselves to meet with DEP for the renewal process. But that's where you stand now, and I think that you'll be in good shape when you get there. We'll come up with many ideas for you to meet their requirements, but it is coming, and I don't think, although people are condemning it, I think we're going to be stuck with it for a while, because I understand the governor is pushing it through as a legacy for his environmental improvements for the state, so we've got to be prepared.
Between that and gas pipelines. I want to make sure I understand. It's a draft. It's what they are proposing at this point in time. The governor's behind it. Department of...
Executive Office of Environmental Affairs.
Okay. That's his department.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, within the governor's office is behind it. I'm looking at this very simplistically. I'm saying, okay, our water comes from underneath the ground, and that same water feeds the rivers that we still fish in abundantly, actually. And actually, his department of fisheries is the one that helps stock it. So how would you know the difference between the native brown trout and the brown trout that gets stocked? That's,
It's very interesting.
you know,
And addressed that
I mean, you know,
before.
6 times a year, everybody's looking at the harbor to find out when's the truck coming. So I'm not going to have any problem at all. You want us to write a letter? I have no problem at all. It can go with the same letter that I'll send for the pipeline.
The more the better.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't make sense. I read the report. I actually think I understood it. But Niles?
I'm just going to say, I think it's kind of a, maybe I'm oversimplifying it, but it's an example of one-size-fits-all kind of ruling. You have to understand that if you look at the Quabbin Reservoir, the water gets pumped out of there, it goes to Boston, it goes over to, I forget what,
Deer Island.
Deer Island, gets cleaned and then sent out to the ocean. So there's no recharging going on. The good news is we have all private septics here. The bad news is maybe we have all private septics, but we have all private septics. So what's happening is the water's getting used, it's getting sent back into the ground, recharging, and you know, nature's cleaning it for us, and we're in good shape. And as they said, what we're really looking at is huge open parking lots that, restrict all that water from the rain to come back in and recharge our aquifer. So I guess slowly but surely, we as communities are gonna have to start looking at, new development and say, don't pave that driveway, stone it or do something with it and allow that water to get recharged. And so, it's just one regulation, one size fits all, and the science is damned.
And it's an unfunded mandate as well.
Always.
Always are. It's interesting in town, in these things you bring up, you have the data to show these things in town. Nashua River Watershed actually has 4 locations on the Squanicook where from April to October, twice a month, they collect samples. And they've done it for many years. And the data, I analyzed the data, it shows water quality like E. coli shoots up after a storm. So if you go through your data in town, you can show these things. You can show that the worst case scenario the state is simulating in their models is not real. It's not really what's happening. And they are going to allow you the opportunity to show site-specific data, to review that data, and that's what we're doing. So when it comes time to sit down with DEP 18 months before the renewal, we'll have this in hand, and we'll be able to say, you're categorizing Pearl Hill Brook as a 4 out of 5, but in all actuality, it's not that. We don't pump that way. We can change it if you'd like. Very simple things we can do to change your numbers and not cost too much. So, we'll be ready, but will it have an impact on the real stream and the real fish, especially the fish, like you say, being stocked twice a year? No science behind that.
I think I understood it as well. It doesn't make any sense. So I'm in total agreement that I would support, I would support sending a letter of support in opposition to these regulations.
And if there's a hearing, I'll go to the hearing. How's that, too? Carolyn, did you have a comment?
I'm going to go recuse myself only. But Todd has had a hand up for a while.
Vicki?
I just have a question of Paul. Are they distinguishing between, is it one blanket regulation? Because I know this did start with the Ipswich River drying up, but in Townsend, conservation at least works really hard to protect our cold water fisheries. So are there in these proposed regulations some way of differentiating the treatment for different towns?
They are. They did. They went by the sub-basin level, and they gave every single sub-basin a biological category and a groundwater level category. So what the current conditions are now and the flows are now and how much water you're withdrawing. However, the science behind it is very poor. What they did is simulate, as I said before, the lowest of flow, August median flow. And then they simulate taking all the groundwater withdrawals out of the river. They do not simulate all the discharge, as you mentioned, going back into the basin.
In August.
In August, or ever. So, it's the science is poor. They manipulated it to show what they want you to show, which is impact from groundwater. And as I say, there's only one regulatory authority, that's the Water Management Act, and that's what they're using. So instead of looking at the other indicators that the USGS identified as indicators of impairing fisheries, they just took water withdrawal. But they do label each sub-basin in a different level, and each level has to do a different level of mitigation or minimization.
Okay, Todd.
I've been involved with it for a while, probably about a full 4 years. I've been on the technical committees, I've been to the hearings, I actually spoke at the one in Wilmington. One thing you didn't mention, that maybe, I don't know if it came out at the last one, is the watershed groups are strongly urging the governor to implement it to affect registered volumes, where there will not be a baseline. They're fighting very strongly to remove that terminology. So Townsend, if you're not using it, has the potential to lose
To lose
what they're
it.
not using, and that's the case with us.
Yes.
It doesn't take into account that the water conservation standards went in 10 years ago, and that water utilities over the last decade have drastically reduced what they're actually withdrawing. So the numbers that they're using from '03 to '05, because that's the numbers they're using for set your baseline, are dramatically lower than what they were then. And it's working. The other thing is that they are strongly urging to become part of the permitting process at the beginning, not commenters at the end. If you take the town of Shrewsbury, who was one of the modeling communities under the swim, they did a model to see if swimming would work. 6 weeks to model a whole watershed. That is pretty funny. Shrewsbury went through it, then separate from swimming, they applied. Now, they have abundant water. They have more, their water, the stream gauges in and around Shrewsbury are full. They're not depleted. But they only have a certain allowable, they're at the max of their Water Management Act registered volume. So they requested a 1.3 million gallon per day increase on a permit. DEP went through the entire process, came back and said, nope, we'll give you 400,000 extra. 3 days after the permit was released, they were put into appeal by 3 different watershed groups saying that that was excessive and they did not need it. Now, I know because the town manager and the representative of Shrewsbury spoke at Mass Waterworks Day on the Hill, they have had to turn away at least 2 large corporations coming in that would have brought somewhere on the order of 200 to 500 jobs into their community. And that's what you're looking at. You're looking at watershed groups being able to say whether you're excessive, whether you should have the water that you do have. And the other problem that isn't brought up is the whole purpose of this was to create a transparent and efficient permitting process. DEP does not have a large staff. With the amount of regulations that they've just added, there is some definite question about whether they will be able to process these permits in a equitable time frame. And it's been brought up on more than one occasion, and we're told that they will get the staff, that the governor's assured them they'll be able to hire the staff. But if you look on history, the first department that gets cut when there's state budget cut is DEP, and they're bare bones as it is.
Well, I don't think we have to think about all of that right now. The governor's in his last term, and the legislature still takes care of who gets what kind of money in terms of those departments. So I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Yeah, I didn't get
I just
into
have
the whole
one
detail of it,
suggestion
'cause I
beyond the
didn't-
letter to DEP, is a letter from the Board of Selectmen of Townsend to our state senator and our state rep, urging them to do the same thing would carry as much weight. I've been, 4 reps that represent the town of Chelmsford have done the same, as well as the senator. And I'll tell you very honestly, it does carry some significant weight. And the reps, a lot of them don't even know about this yet. So, it would be an eye-opener, especially if they represent any sort of urban area, because that's going to affect them.
I mean, I think, again, especially this part of the state kind of gets left out. It's like things don't happen the same way here that they happen in Boston, and yet Boston has all the numbers, and we are expected to live by them. So I have no problem at all. Andy, do you need a motion to send a letter?
What I'll,
Can we just direct you to send a?
yeah, what I'll do is I'll draft a letter for the board's
Okay,
review.
that'd be
Paul, what
great.
was the deadline for comments?
July 10th.
July 10th, so we've got time, so I'll put something together.
That'd be great.
And bring it back to the board.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks to the commission for coming, too.
We're gonna skip down to 3.6.
We have 2.2 that we're already significantly late on. Leslie, you're going to give us an update on the Kinder Morgan Tennessee Gas Pipeline Project?
I would love. I have to use my notes. I won't remember all of this. So, I'll remember. Thank you, you remember.
Yeah, I was there.
I can't wait for next year.
What's next year?
Payback is what it is.
Thank you.
Yes, tell me when.
Hi,
Hi, how are
thank you
you?
for coming.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
Lots of folks have been asking about the pipeline. There's been lots of activity in our neighboring communities.
Yes.
And some not even
Neighboring.
neighboring,
You're right,
you know,
yeah.
all the way out. I was in Northampton a couple weeks ago, and there's some activity going on all through the state.
Yeah, all through the Berkshires. The Berkshires
Yes,
are very active on
exactly.
this.
So
Yeah.
can you just tell us briefly what is happening in
Yeah.
terms of
What we're doing?
information sessions that you have coming up, or?
Sure, okay. We are working hard. I want, you all to know that the town is working very hard on this to make sure our voices are heard, and they know that there's a lot of opposition. I don't know if it's 100% opposition, but I haven't heard one person that supports this whole thing. So, we are approaching this as sort of from a no pipeline perspective. So we don't want to sort of have conservation organizations pitted against homeowners, and we don't want to suggest alternative routes. We don't want homeowners against homeowners. So we're just going at it as a no pipeline, period. I'm working with Kinder Morgan. I'm on the phone with Rick Charbonnier every single day, and we hopefully will have the meeting on the 19th at the high school. Hartley has offered to, do his televising, but that's not confirmed yet. But I gave him 2 other dates, and they couldn't do it. So the 19th, which works out well because Emily Norton has arranged those meetings at the meeting hall in the library. Last Wednesday, she showed Gasland, which is
I'm
available.
sorry, who was?
Emily Norton.
Okay.
She's volunteer. She's helped me like crazy. She's done a lot of work for me, and was the woman that formed the Friends of Willard Brook, and she's volunteered to be on the commission, which we're excited about. We haven't appointed yet.
Okay.
But, so Gasland was on last week. You really should watch it. It's an eye-opener. It's an hour and 45 minutes, but it's on YouTube. Talks about really the environmental impact of fracking gas.
Do we have that link on our website? If not, can we get it?
We will.
You want that on there?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean,
Can we,
I'm getting lots of questions on
Well-
this, so.
Can we do that? Well, we'll check into the
Yeah.
copyright issue of it.
Well, that we can, because it's on YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah, Gasland too, we can't. And I have checked with ethics, because I'm never quite sure what I can do and can't do, but it's protecting our natural resources, so we can put, I think, on the website what we want, but we're also gonna link to the Townsend Conservation Land Trust and put more documents on there.
I was thinking more in terms of, certainly all the schedule of when the meetings are.
Yeah, that's up
on
now.
When and where.
That's on there.
And any links to previous meetings that you've had
Okay.
that we're putting on YouTube.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, that's true. So there are 4 meetings, and they are all on the website. So there's Gasland 2 is Thursday night. That's not available on YouTube, so people need to come and see that one. Same time, I think it's 6:30?
Yeah.
6:30, yeah. So, then the following, 2 weeks later, she's having Ken Hartledge, who is the director of the Neshoba Conservation Trust. They're the ones that have done a massive amount of work. They have a big staff and someone dedicated just to their website. And he's coming to give a PowerPoint presentation at the library. Then on a Saturday in June, there will be Brian Wynn from the Berkshire Action Team, BEAT is what it stands for, Environmental Action Team, and someone from that No Fracked Gas organization coming as well. So that's 4 meetings, and then we'll have our meeting with Kinder Morgan after that. So people should be well educated and understand all the issues when we have the meeting with Kinder Morgan. So, and it will be very important that we don't let them limit the amount of time that they ask questions, because apparently they have been asking to have just, say, 40 minutes of questions, but everybody's going to want to have an opportunity to, so you have to do the best you can with negotiating all of that.
How's it gone at other meetings? You attended the meeting in Ashby?
I went to the one in Ashburnham, and it was It was cut off.
And what about Ashby?
No, I haven't been to that one,
Okay.
but they let people
Pepperell?
speak, they let people speak. They did. And they wanted to have it so that maybe every slide, people could ask. I don't know if that's kind of reasonable. It could drag on all night, but give people, I'd say the presentation was maybe half an hour or so, I'd say a couple of hours. They don't give you a lot of detail. Alan Four is the Director of Government Affairs, and he does this same talk everywhere. So if you want a lot of detail, you won't get
And
it.
he is from where?
Kinder Morgan,
Okay.
from Chicago.
Okay, I'm more concerned about hearing from Conservation than I am from
Oh.
Kinder Morgan.
Okay. Well, I
Okay.
didn't know if you wanted to hear their, oh, all right, okay.
I know that we we'll be talking with them.
Do you want them to come? Do you want to have the public meeting with them, or is
We're
it?
targeting that for the 19th.
Yeah. So go ahead.
I mean,
Still up in the
that's
air.
fine, that's
Keep
fine.
keep up.
But
Okay.
as far as I'm concerned, if Conservation is saying no gas pipeline,
No gas pipeline.
and Conservation is working with our neighbors who are saying no gas pipeline, then,
No gas pipeline.
They need to come and explain themselves.
Yeah. It would
oh,
be-
yeah, they can have an opportunity, certainly.
That's true. That's true.
They can have an opportunity.
So the Townsend Conservation Land Trust is going to pay for a townwide mailing, and on the bottom will be the town, our website, and the Townsend Conservation Land Trust website for information. So that will go out. Emily and I are drafting that together.
Nice.
Yep, then, let's see. I also went to a regional meeting last night, a campaign organizational meeting with Tingsboro, Dunstable, Dracut, Pepperell, Ashby, Ashburnham, and Lunenburg, and Groton. And that helped to define our direction. We're still going to pursue every avenue we can, but was a woman from the Toxics Action Center, which evolved in 1987 when the Woburn cancer, that whole thing. She was great. She did a lot of research, and she suggested targeting the governor's office. The governor signed on to that memorandum of agreement and trying to get him to rescind that decision, thinking maybe he didn't really think about the impact this new infrastructure would have on northern Massachusetts. So that's, they're suggesting contact all the state legislature, state legislative representatives, the federal ones, anybody you might know in that office, and work hard to get them to, him to change his mind. Because if he's to change his mind, then that agreement was to share the tariff with all the New England states, so then all the tariff would be spread on just the other states.
Can you tell us a little bit about the tariff?
I can't tell you much, except that the price of that will be passed on to consumers. And
Okay. So the reality is, whether or not you are a consumer of gas,
or electricity, it's electricity.
whether or not you are a consumer of gas, though.
Yes.
Okay? And whether or not you're a consumer of the gas that they say they're going to be putting,
Sure,
bringing
bringing in.
here, we all, through our electric bills,
Mm-hmm.
will be taxed, if you will, a tariff to pay for this construction.
Exactly.
Okay, I think it's very important that people understand, it's not only that they want to come through your land,
That's
but
true.
it's also that if they do, we will all pay a share of it.
Yes.
Okay, so
Everybody that has a utility
it's
bill.
important for people to understand what the impact on their utility bills will
Good
be,
point.
okay?
Good point.
So, okay.
Yes. Anyway, so I am part of we broke into teams, and I'm on the group that will be writing to all of our local politicians and legislators. So we're doing a regional effort as well as individual effort. I was wanting to ask you if it's okay if I put you on my sort of contact information list, not for conversational purposes, but just to keep you all advised if something comes by. I know there's a concern for open meeting laws, but if I
Yeah.
just send out information.
I think that probably just, filter it to Andy.
Okay.
The reason that I say that is, if you're sending me something on a weekly basis or whatever, I may or may not read it, I may or may not. Andy's gonna have a much better feel for
What
what.
you guys need to see. and-
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I'll continue.
I
barrage him.
appreciate you wanting to do that, but,
Okay. Well, that's okay.
but that way we're all seeing the same stuff, and,
That's true. Okay.
it's really higher level that I need right now. I don't know, Carol.
Yeah, I actually went to the conservation meeting, and I've been to the Ashby meeting and the Pepperell meeting, and all the Kinder Morgan presentations are online, so it'd be worth it for anybody to watch their presentations for when they do come here. One of the things I'd like to do, or this office to do, is, if possible, to the extent possible, is put together a fact sheet. There are a lot of people that want to understand, what does it mean when I tell them they can't survey my land, or what does it mean if I tell them they can survey, we can survey the land. So, from what I understand, if they refuse, they have already filed with DPU, or they're going to at the beginning of the month?
Supposedly June 1st.
June 1st.
And then there will be an extensive review process. It's not cut and dry.
But there will be public hearings, and the residents will have the ability to come in and voice their opinion to the DPU, and I really think that's, where it's
They'll get
at for
registered-
folks.
They'll get registered letters. Even people who are budding the properties where it will go on will get registered letters.
Yeah, and try and get a lot of the questions answered that everyone's being asked. Why can't we run it along the
Yeah.
power lines?
Yeah. Well,
From what I
can answer
understand, the
that one.
state said,
Yeah.
no.
Because they won't.
I think it's important, I agree, people are gonna want that
Yeah,
kind of
some sort of factual
information.
sheet, just what happens if you
I'm
say
not
no.
sure that it's up to us as a board to do that. I'm looking to conservation to lead this more.
Yeah, that's fine.
But, and I don't want to recreate the wheel either, because,
There's-
as I said, other communities
Yeah,
are
they're
doing
all
the same
doing it.
kinds of things, and they've got tons of information out
Yeah,
there.
so we're all stealing from each other.
And that's a great thing to do. That's wonderful. So I'm sure somebody else is kind of,
We can piece things together. I don't know that there's a straightforward fact
yeah,
sheet,
I
but
think
can.
I like that suggestion.
You're not taking an
Little
opinion on it, just that this is what happens,
frequently
this is
asked
going to be the
questions.
steps.
Okay, okay.
Colin,
That's
did
an
you?
idea.
No, I think that we need to, everyone can do, we have plenty of time to do research on our own,
Yeah.
and as well as working with conservation, who is going to be updating all of us. So we'll be well-versed for the meeting, hopefully on the 19th.
Yeah, there will be. I will send you whatever I can. And there is a request also for a special town meeting. I don't know if you've heard anything to that, but there's a petition circulating, and you could think about calling it on your own. I think I have talked to other people, and the benefit of actually doing the petition, which is 200 signatures, is it gets more awareness out there. People that sign that are gonna come, as opposed to maybe, but you could,
It's a resolution that most of the
Non-binding.
towns have.
Similar to Ashby.
Yeah, the Ashby
Yeah.
passed one, a
Same
few other
thing.
towns.
again, that's circulating all around.
When I talked to Emily, it actually worked on that, and she thought it was better to do the petition and ask the selectmen to call a special town meeting.
Yeah, we had to redo the petition, so anybody that signed it will have to sign it again, because it actually called to put a warrant on the next town meeting, and
Which would
that
be in the fall.
wouldn't be till October, November, so they're
Okay, well,
redoing
we
the
can address that if it.
the petition. And I have called Senator Markey's office and Congressman Tsongas's office and DPU and FERC and all of them, so they all know that there's an awful lot of opposition for this effort. So I guess that's sort of it. I mean, there's a lot of research too, but I don't need to go on that. So we are fully engaged, and we will follow it to the end. And it's a long process, so we can't lose steam. But
Can we avail ourselves of the sign on the common as well,
For,
for the meeting?
yeah, we can see if we can put together a sign. We only had 2 signs that we use for town meetings and for elections, so we will see if we can get something up on the common.
well, in the high school, we have that board too. We can use their.
Yeah, and the high school has already agreed to let us use their posting.
Excellent.
Excellent.
And Spalding,
All right.
too. They put stuff out on
That's
their
true.
board.
Yeah, they all do, don't they? Hawthorne Brook does too,
All of them
all their
do.
signboards.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, great.
all schools.
Thank you
like that.
very much.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate your
Sue,
support.
Todd's had his hand for a
Oh,
while.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. 2 points, and I'm not for it. I've been the proponent of building business here based on our natural resources. But in fighting this, you do have to realize that you're facing, if they go eminent domain, it's not a state issue.
No, it's a federal issue.
And the Environmental Business Council has already stated the gas infrastructure is severely
Lacking.
aged and lacking. That a significant portion of this pipeline is going over state-owned land and town-owned land, that there's very few populated areas. Gives the argument to allowing for eminent domain. So it's just to let you guys know, if we fight this, and I've said it before, I'm Army, I get no problem with a fight. But you gotta know the risks. If it goes eminent domain, we lose a lot. So that's.
We'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Just wanted it stated in the beginning.
Cross that bridge when we come to it.
It's good to have a well-thought-out plan.
A lot of prep to do first. Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you.
Thanks, Leslie.
Okay, we're gonna jump down to 3.6.
I just had a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Have you voted to not, did they come ask for any state town land that was not controlled by conservation?
No, we said we weren't gonna do anything.
Until we had a meeting with
Until we
Kinder
have a
Morgan.
meeting with them.
Okay, that sounds
Okay.
good. I just wasn't sure
No.
what had happened previous.
That's all.
We did vote at our meeting last Wednesday to not sign it.
Mm.
FYI.
Good. 3.6, discuss future of the Hart Library at 274 Main Street. And we have, it looks like a quorum. We've got the whole group here from the Properties Committee.
Almost all.
Almost all.
4 of us.
Okay. Does anybody want to,
So, there should be a memo in front of you. Town Properties met on May 8th, and we voted unanimously to recommend 3 options to the board.
Keep going.
I'm sorry, these are half upside down.
One was to sell the property, 2 was to tear down the property, and 3 was to hope for a benefactor to repair the building.
Well, those are kind of different.
Basically, you already knew that, but we thought we'd get together and discuss it.
Hitting all bases, are we?
I can comment. I may comment.
Laura?
The Town Properties Committee has, over the years now, since these buildings have become vacant, they have been part of the discussion. It wasn't until now that we finally just made the motion and decided to bring it forward, because it's about time. You know, you've got issues really with the Hart Building and hazardous waste issues with the Hart Building. We discussed other buildings as well that we actually had a recommendation on, and that was the old bank building, that it's time. That you've got to make a decision, because that it needs so much work and so much money to have to go into those buildings to make them usable or even rentable if we were to keep them. If we were to decide there was a use for them for the town, if we wanted to rent them out to somebody else, it just needs so much rehab work before somebody can use it. So it's about time that the selectmen make a decision as to which way they want to go, that building. And that was the impetus of this.
Yeah, and that's really, you know, we had talked about it at just a couple meetings ago, saying, you know, let's bite the bullet here. Let's talk about, should we sell it or whatever. Colin, you had a question?
I did. Andy, we've done now 2 requests for proposals on the Hart Library. And we've really got nothing back on either one of them. I absolutely love old buildings, but I'm just
Want to buy it?
Looking for a benefactor.
Yeah, my opinion is that we should sell the building. We've got no proposals. We can't afford to do it ourselves. We can't wait. We can't hope for a benefactor. So.
Carolyn?
Well, I like to look at all the facts. Have we ever put together a specification sheet to do an estimated cost on how much it would be to bring it up to code? I know you have the furnace, some asbestos down there, an interior, some lead paint on the outside, but did we ever get an actual real estimate? Is it $500,000, $1 million, $2 million? Do we know?
Andy?
We've talked about that. The board has brought that up in the past. The problem is you need to know what your use is before you can come up with an estimate for what it's going to cost to
Yeah, to do the inside, I
so.
agree, but the structure of it, you know, the lead paint, the furnace, the asbestos, I don't know with the tight, does it have tight tanks now for septic?
We're not sure.
I know it can't tie into here, that was the
It needs to be
big,
replaced, whatever's there is
yes.
no good.
So just a ballpark, you know,
Well,
idea.
That was part of the discussion though, because you only have just so much land there.
Yeah, it would have to be
So
tight
you would be
tank.
looking at tight tanks,
Yeah.
and tight tanks are the kiss of death when
Right.
it comes to any kind of facility, because you have to keep emptying out every, you know, it's just cost prohibitive to do that.
I don't disagree.
And when when you'd be dealing with the hazardous waste aspect of the asbestos, you're not quite sure about mold there, that's really expensive. And you'd have to have, the town would have to pay for that.
Oh, absolutely. I just would like to know if we have an idea of what the cost would be. The other issue is our master plan. Karen, I know you just did an update to our master plan for the planning board, right? Did that talk about the area properties?
We did open space and affordable housing, we haven't done master.
So our master plan still exists from 99,
2001.
2001? Because that talked about all the area. I feel a little cautious about selling that land. The building, I wouldn't mind auctioning off, because I know also there's beaver issues or structural issues with the Squanicook from an engineering report I read, but I would have a hard time selling that land. It's really valuable to this location.
For what?
Especially parking.
Tear it down and put a parking lot? That's
I'm not
against the
saying-
60s in me.
The topography of that piece of land
Joni Mitchell?
is not
Yeah,
really
my Joni
conducive,
Mitchell.
you know, to a parking lot. But again, I mean, I'm not an engineer, I'm not a structural engineer.
Yeah, you don't want it right on the Squanicook. There's concerns there, but I just, you know, to lose that piece of land contiguous with this building that doesn't have enough parking and land associated with it. I'm not saying I would be against it, I'm just saying these are some of my concerns with selling the building itself.
Well, the 1969 master plan wanted to buy the whole block.
Well, so did the 2001. We were downtown campus. That's why I was wondering what the update to the master plan was. That's why we bought those parcels, and we're keeping an eye all along Jeff Street for
I don't want to get into, I guess where I'm coming from right now is, I don't want to get into analysis paralysis. I don't want to get into, well, that's what we used to call it at work. You know, you can talk about something for so long, but there comes a time when you just want to do something about it. And I think we have been talking about it for a very long time. Analysis.
Well, we've also had, you know, we also have a contractor that's also on the board, and myself being in real estate. And I've talked to appraisers who deal with municipal buildings. And as I stated to the board when we met, my best recommendation would be to go with somebody who handles municipal buildings on an auction basis, not necessarily to go with a local realtor, you know, to do this, because you really need somebody who has expertise in that. And actually I have the name of somebody, I don't know him, but it was referred to me, and I will give that to you, by appraisers that do commercial, and referred this person as being really good with municipal buildings. And that might be somebody to talk to before you make your ultimate decision, because this, and I know nobody wants to hear this, but this could be a tear down.
Mm-hmm.
It just could be one where it's recommended that it's so far beyond what we could possibly do or afford to do, that it's a tear down.
Then you still have the hazardous waste costs, though.
Yes.
I have a question. And I don't know if anybody, I don't know if it's applicable. the state has all kinds of programs for economic development. Is there anything that we can avail ourselves of for that building?
Well, I'm going to a meeting tomorrow, and that's one of the questions I'm going to ask, one of the projects
Because
that
there's I mean, I just got that at my meeting a couple weeks ago with the MMA, and they gave us a packet about all of the economic development just signed by the governor.
Right.
And it's pretty comprehensive. I'd just like to find out what that consists of, because if we could get help from somebody and get the funds along with it, that would make me wait a bit.
Yeah, and there may be some funds available. As has been mentioned a couple of times, there are actually a series of catch-22s involved with this building. You know, one is if we could potentially get some grant funds, what are we using it for? And, you know, are we going to renovate it for our own use? What use do we have of it? I'm not sure if we could get funds to renovate it and then flip it. And then the septic was mentioned earlier. The site is very tight. I think it's a half acre, but a good portion of it is steep slope down to the river. You know, there's a number of challenges with the property. Somebody at one point in an informal conversation said you could close off Riverbank Terrace and put in some parking and put a septic system under what is now the road coming in off of Route 119. Yeah, I guess that's a possibility, but then that sort of modifies and dramatically changes the whole traffic and circulation pattern for Town Hall.
Be tough on voting day.
It would be tough on voting day. It would be tough for the fire apparatus as long as it's here.
It failed. Riverbank Terrace, that was one of the, Carol Wright actually, I think, did that original proposal when we were going to do the Hart Library, and it was, it failed miserably. Nobody wanted to close that off.
Yeah, I'm not saying that it's a slam dunk or anything, you know, but when you start to look at the various issues on the site, and septic being one of them, there's not as Laurie said, tight tanks, you know, they work, but they're obscenely expensive. And so there are a number of, just obviously, if it was easy, it would have been done by now.
Right.
You know, I guess it's the obvious piece.
Andy, you said you can find out that information that Sue is requesting. You said tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm going to a meeting tomorrow down at the Regional Planning Agency, and so we'll see if there's any funding available for that.
Because whatever comes of that, I think we need to make a decision.
Yeah.
Soon.
The other thing
I'm ready.
that's, yeah, and I
That's
can.
the one holdout. That's the one
Okay.
holdout because it's new.
Yeah,
So
and
for
I can return to the board next meeting and
Excellent.
provide an update there.
So ultimately, it's going to be up to the taxpayers anyway. It's going to
Yes,
go to
that's
town
right.
meeting.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
And that's why I
And the
want to
other
talk
thing-
about it now, because let's be prepared and let's say, all right, we're going to talk about it at the fall town meeting.
Yeah.
And ask
that's
for a
what you
vote.
guys would want us to
But-
do, is put it, is that your recommendation, to put it on that?
I do have one other comment, though. You're also listing the annex, the bank
Yes.
building. Aren't we using that now for storage?
Storage.
Yes.
We're growing mold.
You're growing mold, is what you're doing on all the papers that are being stored. I wonder if you'll have anything left.
Our roof
I
was
mean,
fixed, why is
Look
it
into
growing
it.
mold?
I mean, it got
Well, the
cleaned
roof being
out.
fixed did
Yeah.
take care of the moisture problem.
Yeah.
It
Is
did
the vault
get,
still broken, or is it just?
hold on. We did get, it did get cleaned out.
Mm-hmm.
The mold?
Well, I don't know if there's a quote mold problem.
We'll look into that and see.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Maybe we can have somebody
Mhm.
look at it.
Wear a mask.
But I'd like to hold off on that and just, because we have been using that for some storage too. So let's handle that as a separate item. Lisa, did you have a question before?
It was answered.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so if you can report back at our next meeting on that, and we'll make a decision, how's that?
Okay.
Before I have her hand up.
Cool.
We also we're meeting again on June 3rd, and the question will be is what would you like us to address next? There are a number of properties that we're addressing, and we're happy to come back to you with more recommendations. And if everything that we're doing is going to go before town meeting, we'd like to keep the dialogue going so that you have the
Sure.
list and recommendations prior to.
Sure, the only caveat that I would say is if Andy comes back from this meeting tomorrow with anything hopeful, maybe it would apply to some of the other buildings, even if it doesn't apply to the Hart.
She's
So-
talking about vacant properties.
That too, vacant properties, land to sell off, land for possible donation of habitat for affordable housing.
Okay.
We touched on all of those.
Excellent.
Go for it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
As an aside, which is not on your agenda, but part of what we did last night, we did present our updated affordable housing plan, which we were hoping to have done for last year. Most of the data is from our survey in 2012, and some of 2013 was incorporated. We met with planning, and they had reviewed, we reviewed with them, just tweaking a couple of things, so we're really close to presenting it to you.
Excellent, thank you. Thanks for the update. Okay, so we're back to 3.3. I knew that.
Just
Moving right along.
Keeping you honest.
Review request from Ed Kukla, Highway Superintendent, for a transfer of appropriations in the amount of $30,000 from wages to expenses.
This is something that we see typically towards the end of the fiscal year. The last 2 months of the year, we're allowed to transfer money between departments or within departments in order to cover shortfalls or just to move money around to facilitate purchases. Some of this is for road work. Most of this is for equipment-related expenses going forward. There's been a vacancy in the highway department almost the entire fiscal year, or maybe the entire fiscal year. So there are funds in wages that Ed is transferring, proposing to transfer from wages to expenses.
Okay. Can I get a motion?
Sure can. So I would move to approve the request for transfer of appropriations in the amount of $30,000 to be transferred from the wages operations staff account number 5110 to the public works supplies account 04-422-5530.
Second.
And
Oh,
equipment
sorry.
repair. He doesn't break it down, so why don't I just say into expenses?
Second.
Does that work?
Yeah, that works.
Okay, any other questions? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Just you.
There you go. 3.4, review request of Unitil Fitchburg Gas and Electric to cross-alter and/or construct within a town way for installation of gas service at 70 Proctor Road and 19 Elm Circle. Any questions?
I would move to approve the crosswalk and alter and construct within a town way for gas surface installation at 70 Proctor Road and 19 Elm Circle.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll leave you on that one.
Three 3.5, review correspondence and proclamation for 2014 motorcycle and scooter annual ride to work day.
into the record,
Yeah, do you
Sue?
want to read it?
Sure. Whereas scooters and motorcycles use comparatively less fuel, cause less pollution, and have less harmful impact on our infrastructure, and whereas scooters and motorcycles require only a fraction of the space taken by other vehicles, and whereas the price of fossil fuels is growing and supply is diminishing, and whereas the use of fossil fuels continues to damage our health by adding to pollution and risk our future through global warming, and whereas our infrastructure repairs fail to keep pace with its degradation, and whereas for these reasons scooters and motorcycles offer a form of daily transportation to be encouraged, and whereas June 16, 2014 has been designated as Ride to Work Day to highlight the positive daily use of scooters and motorcycles, therefore, we, the Selectmen of the Town of Townsend, Middlesex County, and the Commonwealth of Mass do hereby proclaim June 16th as Ride to Work Day.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Which, something else jumped into my head, and I don't know if it's appropriate right now, but it's National EMS Week.
Oh.
We should do a proclamation for them.
So moved.
So moved. You could sign it outside of a meeting.
Do we want to, do we need a vote on this? The proclamation?
You can either vote or to just sign it.
I'll sign it.
Thank you.
We can do one for EMS.
Okay.
Do you want me to vote that, to sign outside of a meeting? The EMS proclamation?
Sure.
I would move to draft an EMS proclamation and sign outside of the meeting.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you for reminding us. Okay, 3.6, discuss future, nope, did that one, Tolland. 3.7. Discuss FY15 capital budget appropriation. Carolyn, you wanted to talk about this?
Yes, I had sent Andy an email, and I think he had put it in your packet, talking about the appropriation. You know, there was some confusion about that at the last town meeting. So what I was asking is, I did not understand, and I was hoping we could have a discussion about how it's legal to appropriate some of the projects that were in FY16 on that plan. As you know, we submit the capital report. It's comprised of two, the CIP, the recommended capital budget, and
The worksheet, you mean?
well, the worksheet's part of it, but let me just grab one.
I have
You got
copies.
one?
Oh, good. Thank you.
So we give you a little intro description. I'm in the report. And then we have the detailed description of every item that was recommended. And, of course, the plan. So essentially, that would be the CIP or the recommended capital budget as outlined in our bylaw. And then you also have the 5-year plan or the ongoing capital program as it's described in our bylaw. So what I was unclear on was that what I think you said is that it was okay to pull some projects from FY16 to put on the capital plan because it was on the 5-year plan. Is that?
It's the 5-year plan that you guys presented to us.
Well, in our bylaw, yes, it's in our bylaw, the capital program is outlined in there. It is all the department requests. We can't review them. In our bylaw, it says it must be done annually. We can't review them years out in advance because it's done for the next fiscal year. So also, if you look at our bylaw, we have criteria that you're supposed to recommend your capital improvements from, and that's why we created our policy. So we only do a year at a time, because that's all that's in our bylaws. So I don't understand how we could have FY16 projects on there.
Well, we've gone through this a few times. Colin?
For me, my personal feeling is this entire packet is the capital plan.
This is a capital report comprised of 2 parts, and that's outlined in our policies and it's outlined in the bylaw, so.
I don't have a problem with the way that the the capital projects were appropriated, personally.
Well, hold on.
I don't know.
because
It's not about having a problem, it's me understanding.
That's what I want to get to, okay? We know that there are not complete understandings amongst us, okay? I think some of it is terminology. That's why we dropped that other article, okay? And we've said, yeah, we're gonna be talking about that. Okay, so starting fresh, and we'll talk about it with capital, okay? And I think your concerns echo that. It's the same stuff that we've been talking about, the same things that, the terminology is confusing. And I'm not saying who's right and who's wrong, but in terms of what you're suggesting is that it was not a legal appropriation. It was vetted by our council, as all of the articles were, and again, even that evening, by, I mean, this is our attorney, who specializes in representing municipalities at town meetings, and has done it for several years, many years, who works for a firm who represents and has for years municipalities. So it's like, if there was something glaring about this whole process that was illegal, I would hope that our professional attorneys would have figured that out.
Well, I can understand why you say that. We have 3 legal opinions, and they were very clear. They said that it has to be submitted on the capital report for the CIP in order for it to be a legal appropriation. My question
And
is
it
this
is.
then, Sue.
It's here.
If this is now what the selectmen are saying, the 5-year plan they can pick and choose from and make a legal appropriation as a capital plan, then why was the fire station stopped? Because our FY14 plan had a 5-year plan and the fire station was listed on it.
Because that was a special town meeting, was it not, Andy?
Correct.
That doesn't have any difference in our bylaw.
Well, can I jump in for a minute? I think this points up I think this is the
The need
third
to
year in a
talk.
row that we've had the dispute about capital appropriations. And I spent a little time this afternoon rereading the bylaw. And the terminology is, it could be a lot better. And I think there are terms used that mean something to one person but mean something completely different to other people. And there are terms that are being used interchangeably by some and not necessarily by everybody. So I think one of the things, and this goes back to what you said at town meeting, Sue, is we need to go back to we need to get everybody in the same room, first of all, because the risk we run, the problem that we're running into is we're losing, the capital planning process is losing credibility among the people who are stand the most to benefit from it, and that's the department heads. The department heads are tired of a lot of what is going on. They want a clean process, and so I think we need to bring everybody together, the board, the capital planning committee, probably the finance committee, as well as the department heads, or the department heads that are putting forth the capital projects. Get everybody together, figure out what it is that we want to do, figure out language that we can all agree to, and go forward and bring something to town meeting. We're only hurting ourselves to continue the internal bickering. We're looking more and more like Washington, and I don't think that's anything that we should be trying to emulate. So, you know, when you read the bylaw, there are a number, like I said, there are a number of terms that are used. It uses the term. It refers to capital improvements. It refers to a report. It refers to the capital program, the capital improvement plan, the capital budget. Sometimes it's capitalized, sometimes it's not. We need to all be on the same page and have a bylaw that has internal consistency before we can hope to have any kind of a successful program. In terms of whether what happened at town meeting 2 weeks ago was legal or not, clearly it was. The town council wouldn't have approved it. Bond council wouldn't have approved it. Town council looked at the warrant article when it was first drafted, looked at the motions when the motions were drafted, had some comments. Town council has opined a number of times on the capital planning bylaw and the process that we follow. If there were issues with what we were trying to do at town meeting, they clearly would have been flagged. So I think we need to acknowledge that we have a broken mousetrap, and we need to find a way to build a better one.
Carolyn? I can appreciate that, and that's why back in 2010, we all met, we all talked about the proposed language, and like I said, I'm not adverse to change. I think that's a good idea. You need to have your finance committee, your capital planning committee, and your selectmen to look at it, to review it. If somebody's confused by the language, then we need to address that. I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, you know, the committee itself, this is what we do every year. And I mean, in relation to the department heads, this is why we work so hard to get the committee established, so they didn't have to go on town meeting floor and fight for everything. So the process itself is very easy one. You know, the forms go out in October, they come back December 1st, we meet with everybody, we grade it, we score it, we got our policies in place. I don't think there's any confusion there. The confusion happens between the submittal of the plan in town meeting. And this time it only happened a week before town meeting, and there was no time for...
Carolyn, I'm not going to get into that rat hole again, okay?
Well, I don't consider it a rat hole.
I'm sorry.
But I did have a question.
It did not happen a week before town meeting. It happened when the capital planning group was here at our meeting. We talked about how we were going to bundle it. We asked Andy and the accountant to go back.
All right, I'm not even gonna...
Please do not make it sound as though a week before town meeting is the first you ever heard of it, because you sat right here with the rest of the capital planning
I
group.
actually watched the YouTube, and there was discussion about going out for a borrow, and we said, well, if you're going to do that, we need to do a strategic plan. That's neither here nor there. The other question that I had is on our actual, this is what we passed, right, Andy? This is what I understand that we passed, because our motion says.
Can I stop you for a minute? What's your point? What are you
I just want to know if the police
What are
chief
you
got his
hoping to
cruisers.
accomplish?
I want to know if the police chief got his cruisers. Because on here...
The funding is in the operating budget.
I know, but it's not on the recommended plan.
Because if we put it on the plan, then we would have appropriated it twice. We don't want to appropriate...
Well, that would be in the motion. That would be in the motion. That we wouldn't appropriate it in the motion.
The funding for the cruisers is in the operating budget. So in the
Yes.
approval of the operating budget, the cruisers get funded.
Yes, but the actual cruisers themselves go on the plan, and it's taken out of tax levy. So you don't appropriate it in the motion, just like you didn't appropriate the ambulance receipts money. But it's still on the recommended plan. And that, I mean, it's not there. You have all these other projects, but it's not on the recommended plan, so I didn't know how we were going to address his cruisers.
Is he getting the cruisers?
The cruisers have been funded. He's getting his cruisers.
I can just ask the Attorney General, I guess.
That was my point, okay? What
No,
is
that's
it?
fine.
What is it that you're trying to accomplish by asking these
Understanding
questions?
what we've done. I don't understand how, I mean, we have clear legal opinions. It doesn't make any sense how we can do that. None of those things were evaluated in accordance with the bylaw, the FY16.
If they
And that's
were
why I sent
on
that
the
email to
5-year
Andy.
plan, my assumption, and I think it's a valid assumption, is that the capital planning looked at all of that. They discussed all of
Our
that.
bylaw specifies what we look at.
And that you produce a 5-year plan.
Capital program that's consisted of the department's
All right,
requests.
I'm not going to continue
I
this.
don't know why this is hard to understand.
Because, Carolyn, we keep going around in circles.
Because we don't want to have just an honest discussion.
No,
about
I
what it-
don't want to have it here and now.
Do you want to have a work session?
That is exactly what Andy's suggesting.
Okay, that's fine.
And that is, but you know what I think we do need? I think we need a cooling off period, okay? I think that for a month or two, we don't talk about capital planning. It's not time for capital planning to start up again. We've got plenty of time to cool off, to look at it, to think about it, to do some research, hopefully, with the MMA, with some other communities that have been doing this for a long time. There are other things that we can prepare for so that we can learn from what's worked in other places and learn about the language that they use.
That's what we did.
Okay?
That's what we did.
Well, I understand, but all laws are subject to change
Of course.
in order to define them better. And that's all we're saying is let's start again, let's look at what we have, and let's go forward. But I'm not willing to do it tonight.
Well, the one thing I do, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just had one question. You said something about contacting the Attorney General about the cruisers. Are you trying to prevent
Oh,
us,
God, no.
the police department,
about
from
the
getting new
appropriation.
cruisers? I mean, that seems like that seems like it's the end, and I would be very upset if the department didn't get the cruisers that
Well,
they need.
that's why I was upset it wasn't on the capital plan. It was on the capital plan we submitted. So I agree with you. But if it's not there,
Well,
it's
the
not,
cooling-
and it's not a legal appropriation.
The
then-
cooling off period will allow the Attorney General, the appeal to the Attorney General to go forward. Getting back to...
My concern is, though, okay, if we're talking about going to the Attorney General, or you're talking about going to the Attorney General, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, to
Okay.
ask them.
What does that do to these appropriations?
They
they gotta look at-
they
they
stand until somebody comes in
I
and
mean,
says
we're
it
gonna have
was
to give
illegal.
cruisers back? Are we gonna have to put purchases on hold? If this
Well,
goes to the
we're-
It's not
Attorney
till
General's
July
office?
We're not
1st.
putting
Everything
on-
goes to the Attorney General anyway. So
We're not putting-
Everything does. That's
Purchases
what.
Purchases don't go to the Attorney
I
General.
thought the whole warrant goes.
No, only bylaws go to the
Only
Attorney.
bylaws are going?
But the point that we did this in 2010 to come up with a plan going forward, that's true. That's what we tried to do in 2010.
And it's not working perfectly,
It's
so
not-
we've gotta fix
And
it.
it's not working. It's not that there's a conflict just between the Capital Planning Committee and the Board of Selectmen.
No.
There's an internal conflict between members of the Capital Planning Committee that have a different understanding of what the process is. So we need to get through that.
But, yeah,
Like I said, it's
but
not
I
doing
don't-
anybody any good to continue to fight amongst
And I
ourselves.
don't want to do it tonight, okay, because I think it's too
Agreed.
fresh. It's too fresh. It's, I think we all need some distance from it. I think we each need to go and do our own research and find out what other communities are doing, or call MMA and see, what they suggest. We're struggling with this, and I don't want to recreate the wheel, but neither do I think we're prepared to really talk that through tonight. So
Okay,
I'd like to just kind of move on if we could.
of course.
We're just not going to solve it tonight.
Can't solve anything without just a discussion about it.
And we have-
Without emotion or tension. It just.
Carolyn, I am trying so hard. If we don't have an end in mind for the conversation, what is your hope for continuing this conversation? Because if your hope is that you're going to convince me that what we did was wrong, when our attorneys told us it was fine. You're not gonna convince me, okay?
I'm not
You're
trying to convince you, I'm trying to understand, if it was fine to do that, then why wasn't it fine to do it in the fall, when you could have put the fire station on the warrant? It was on the 5-year plan, it had nothing to do with the fall.
Because we were told by our attorney it wasn't fine.
There's a difference that, if I recall,
It was
between
a
the special
town
and the
meeting.
annual.
Not according to our bylaw, so what's the difference?
I don't
guess
think it
that's
had to
what- all
do
right,
with
then what
that
is the difference?
bylaw. I think it had,
Again, that's the inherent problem is that the bylaw is unclear. We need to clarify the bylaw. While
DOR
we're-
created that bylaw.
No, DOR didn't create that bylaw.
Yes, they did.
okay, that's enough.
And we need to have the parties involved that are affected by it. The finance functions, the executive functions, the departments.
That's why I had the big meeting in 2010, and
I
actually the
know,
selectmen made a
Carolyn,
lot
we
of
can't go
changes to it.
backward. We can't go backward. We can't talk about what happened in the past. We have to go forward. And the point is, I'm perfectly willing and want us to discuss it, but there is no way that we can come to any resolution this evening.
Okay.
Because there are people missing from the conversation.
Okay.
Okay? So it's not that I want to shut it off, it's not that I don't want to, I'm not getting emotional, I simply want the meeting agenda to continue.
Okay.
Okay? So, 3.8, Council on Aging Senior Center Director, discussion of next steps in recruiting a successor. Andy?
So in your packet tonight, under item 3.8, there's a memo that I put together laying out a potential process for recruiting a successor to Chris Klisch, who's retiring later this summer. It sort of follows the process that we used for the new fire chief. It doesn't have to be this formal or this elaborate, but it seemed to work well when we did it for the chief. We've got some time. You know, if Chris had given us 2 weeks' notice, we probably wouldn't go in this direction. But where she gave us a few months, we have the luxury of time. We also have the luxury of a number of people who are involved in the senior center, either as members of the Council on Aging or as the Friends of the Seniors that have expressed interest and willingness to participate in this process. What I've suggested is a screening committee, and then there's a decision for the board whether you want the screening committee to come up with a candidate for your consideration, or as we did with the fire chief, a couple of finalists for the board to interview and select from. If we were under more of a time constraint, typically the board would look to me to go through a process of screening candidates and bringing one forward, similar to what we did with the treasurer and the collector. And I brought a name for each of those positions to the board. This would be again a little bit more open-ended in terms of how you want the committee, what you want the committee's final charge to be.
Okay. Colin?
I had 2 comments. I agree with doing a search committee. I liked how it went with the fire chief position. My comment is that I would personally prefer a choice, but if the other members of the board want to just one recommendation, I'm okay with that. But if that's the case, I think somebody from this board should sit on the screening committee.
If there's just one.
If they're just bringing one.
Carolyn?
Well, the charter, we appoint the Council on Aging, but the Council on Aging appoints their director. So why are we, how many members are on Council on Aging? I don't remember. 7? Is there 7?
I don't recall right now.
I know it's a pretty big committee, so it's a little bit different with the fire chief. We appoint the fire chief, he reports to the selectmen, same with tax collector treasurer, but I feel more comfortable knowing what they'd like. Not that I think there's anything wrong with us being involved with it, but we have so much work to do, so if that's something they'd rather take care of themselves, where they appoint it.
Were they looking for assistance on how to go about this?
They're happy with this process. I met with them a month or so ago and have had a number of conversations with Dave Prophet since then, and they like the scheme that's been put forth tonight.
I mean, ultimately, they're responsible, right?
Yeah, they appoint them.
So,
Well, I'm not sure they appoint. I think they,
Yeah, no,
I mean, because
the council
if
may
it's somebody
appoint-
that works for the town, we appoint.
Council may appoint such clerk and other employees as it may require. Council on Aging does it. We appoint who we're authorized in the charter to appoint, from what I understand.
I have just one comment. Andy, maybe you could look into that, but, there is a big bubble of senior citizens coming up now, okay, as we baby boomers are aging. And I'm thinking that the expectations of this newer group of aging folks may be a little bit different than what we've had in the past. And I would suggest that however the screening committee, if it comes about that it becomes a screening committee, also consist of a couple of folks that are not affiliated with the current Council on Aging or seniors. And the reason that I'm saying that is because I think it could provide another point of view. I'm concerned that there are a number of elderly people in town or older folks in town, but they don't all get involved. And I'm wondering if we're missing something, is all, okay? And just to give an opportunity to those folks that maybe would be involved, just for a different point of view.
Well, and I did include
know?
Stacy Shuttler as a member of the screening committee. The primary purpose being that it's a shared building.
Right.
Senior
I
center
totally
and
understand that.
library. The two directors need to be able to work together.
I
so.
totally understand that, but I'm suggesting just, one or two members at large.
We can certainly add that.
Members of the community at large, just to bring a different perspective. Now, that may not end up mattering at all. But I wonder about it. I just wonder about it. Yeah.
Madam Chair.
Yeah.
Since we do have plenty of time, and we can, Andy will have time to.
Tonight, you mean?
No, not tonight. The point Carolyn brought up about the charter, and then, Andy, if that's the case,
Yeah, you want to just come back to us with this?
yeah, since we do have plenty of time.
Okay.
Yeah, and really, one has nothing, even though we don't appoint, if the Council on Aging wants us to form the committee, I have no issues with that. I just thought with
No, I
all the
understand
work
what
we
you're
have
saying.
coming up, that's one area we don't need to.
Yeah, we could clarify that too. Okay, 3.9, review and approve Maria Lane Scholarship, and this is a confidential.
Correct. We always keep this confidential just so that we don't let the cat out of the bag before the
don't wanna ruin
lucky
the
recipient.
surprise.
That's why I said it.
So I would move to approve the Maria Lane Scholarship. Is it still in the amount of $500?
Yes.
In the amount of $500.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carolyn?
Aye, I'm sorry.
Three point 10, town moderator notice of resignation. Andy?
Yeah, I just wanted to, the board members know, wanted to just alert anybody out in public that the moderator has resigned his position. I'd never been, in my career, I've never been faced with this and what that means. The moderator has certain duties that are unique to the position. It varies from town to town, but it created some questions for me in terms of both how we move forward with presumably a special town meeting in the fall, whether we would fill it at one of the upcoming elections, the state primary or the state general election, and also, and in some respects, at least in the way that my first reaction was, the moderator is the appointing authority for a number of committees, and how do those, what happens with those vacancies? Primarily on the Finance Committee, in which the moderator appoints all members, and the Capital Planning Committee, which the moderator, I believe, appoints 4. So I did reach out to Town Council, and as you'll recall from town meeting a couple of weeks ago, John Barrett was appointed, was designated by the moderator, and it was ratified by town meeting that John Barrett would be the deputy moderator. So that deputy designation carries through the year until a new moderator is elected. So any subsequent special town meetings that we have, Mr. Barrett would be the moderator. However, the charter is specific that the deputy moderator has none of the other authority of the moderator. So he can't make appointments to committees and other posts. And then the clarification I wanted from council was what happens to people whose terms are up, but they haven't been a new member hasn't been replaced or hasn't been named yet. And council opined that those members can continue to serve until such time as their successor is named and sworn in. So it's what we thought the answer would be, but the charter is a little bit unclear in certain areas. So so that's it. There'll be a decision for the board as to whether you want to put this on one of the elections that's coming up, or just wait until next April.
Well, we have another election coming, what, September?
We have the state primary in September, and then the general election in November. The primary is complicated because that is a partisan election. And either of the state elections, we would have to run a dual election, which we've done in the past. But the problem is that you run off of 2 different voter lists because there are different qualification requirements for state elections versus local elections. So it puts an extra burden on the town clerk and on the election workers. Would also need more election workers. Would need, I think we usually run with 24. Would probably need another 18 or so.
So then there's additional expense too, in that,
yes.
In that sense.
Yeah. So it's something, it's not something the board needs to decide on now. It's something to sort of think about, and maybe the easiest thing is to just let it be until next April.
I don't have any problem letting it be until April.
No, I just would like to remind anybody who's been appointed by the moderator, don't think about resigning. Because some of these committees, especially, like for instance, capital planning, we already have 1 vacancy.
Yeah, just learners.
And then, if a couple more people resign, I just want to make sure we have enough people for the quorum.
And finance has a vacancy for me, so they have 1, but Nancy, you're going to stay and I think Ginny is up too, so they
Yeah.
should be fine.
Finance.
Capital should be fine. They've operated with 6 for the last.
Yeah, I don't
We've
have,
operated with 4 for
Yes, we
a couple
have.
of years at a time, so even
Yeah.
if this thing makes it easier,
Even on
but
paper,
even
we're-
if this hadn't come into place, we still would have been all right.
Yeah, so I don't have.
all right.
Like I said, no,
I
no
mean,
decision
I-
needs to be made now, but, you know,
Yeah.
I was
we may revisit later on.
not now.
Okay. Thank you. 3:11, update on road work and detours in Lunenburg affecting Townsend drivers.
Yeah, just a heads up, some work started over in Lunenburg yesterday. We did put information out on the website, sent out an alert to residents. The intersection of Multus Road and Townsend Harbor Road in Lunenburg is being reconstructed. It's an
That's where that nasty turn is.
It's an offset intersection. There's a big triangle in the middle there, and it's being reconfigured to be a 90-degree intersection, or close to a 90-degree. So there's going to be some detours and some inconveniences out there. So people, especially coming from Timberley Park, heading south into Lunenburg, or trying to get down to 2A, are advised to find alternate routes if you're starting before or if you're driving during construction times. So we expect the work to last for a couple of weeks.
3:12, discuss request of Timberley Park residents to volunteer to maintain the Ash Street ball fields. I think there's just one actually, but
I couldn't remember.
yeah, it's just one.
I know, Sue, that you've been, I think you were approached by Bob Harrison on this, and he reached out to Paul. And essentially, there's no liability to the town. The board has to, if the board is inclined to grant permission for volunteers to maintain the field, then our liability goes away. But you know, there's really nothing beyond that. I think it's great to have a group of people that are willing to step up and try to bring back the fields. I know that in the past there were some trees down across the road, and I think Roger, you guys had taken some of those trees down in the past. So it's great when a hometown group or a neighborhood group can take over an area like that. So I don't have, there's not a formal group, you know, of Friends of Ash Street Fields or anything like that. But I think a vote from the board to allow volunteers to maintain the fields would be sufficient to cover us, according to what our insurance agent has told us.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly don't have a problem, but I know the water department handles that, and we discussed it last year. I think they were even talking about maybe doing an RFP, like a youth association to maintain it. The problem, the reason it kind of got closed off is because it wasn't being maintained and kids were up there.
Oh, that happens.
Causing problems.
Yeah, exactly.
That happened
but it's
before
real
the
close
water
to the
department took it
wellheads, I
over.
guess, is the problem. And we had that one incident, not at that wellhead, but at the other one where they had oil and stuff like that. So that's kind of why they blocked it off, because it is so close to the wellhead. So you really want to talk to the water commissioners. They discussed it. I wasn't at that meeting. But
Yeah, Paul was in touch with both me and Bruce Heyman, our insurance agent, and he's fully on board with allowing them to use it. And Bruce pointed out that it requires the Board of Selectmen's agreement. So
yeah, I have no
Bruce is
issues
good.
with it. If the commissioners, I talked to
Paul
Chief
is good with
Marshall, and he said he was fine with it, as long as they can get up there to patrol it. It's not blocked off.
I think the main thing was that it's in disrepair right now, and they wanted to just clean it up so the kids could play some games there.
Yeah.
You know, so.
My opinion is go Team Timberley.
Yeah.
I know Eagle Scout had approached the water department too as part of this project. I don't know.
Actually, somebody had just redone it a few years ago, and and then nobody used it. So kids hang out there, and as kids get older and go to college, they don't hang out anymore. The younger kids move in and start hanging out. So the more it's used as a field, the less you're gonna get kids hanging out there, so. Andrea?
Are you going to notify a lot of people or certain departments like conservation to check on something? Certainly the water department would know. Or are they going to be in charge of, if they want a porta potty, getting a porta potty, or taking away the trash? Because if you have kids playing even moderately supervised games, you always generate a lot of trash. You're going to take care of the trash pickup and stuff like that.
Yeah, we're not proposing to put porta potties or trash receptacles up.
Oh, no, nothing at all. I
Carry in, carry out.
That's how it's always
Yeah.
been.
If the water department, as was mentioned, it's water department land. If they think that it's important to have trash receptacles, then.
Oh, no, I wasn't speaking for them. It's just I walk around a lot. And when I walk around, a lot of times, I pick up stuff that was carried in but not carried out.
Sure.
Well-
So I just thought it might simplify a problem.
Yeah,
If
I'm
you put some
glad that
receptacles.
somebody's saying they're gonna volunteer
Yeah.
to keep it. And if that's the case, I'm sure they will think about, everybody that's using the field is gonna have to take their trash with them.
Yeah, there's been a great
Yeah.
development in recent years of friends groups and sort of stewardship groups, or whatever you want to call them, sort of organically growing or organically forming and taking over maintenance where governmental entities can't or haven't shown the inclination to. And in many towns in the area, there are groups that take care of conservation areas and town forest areas and things like that. So hopefully this will turn into something like that. They tend to do all the self-policing and pick up after, certainly after themselves and after others as well.
Do you need a motion?
Yes, a motion to allow volunteers to perform minor routine maintenance at the Ash Street fields.
I would move that we allow Timberley Park residents to volunteer to maintain the Ash Street ball fields.
Second.
The only other thing that Chief Marshall suggested is letting the neighbor, of course, they probably would know, but I guess, prior, because of the problems that were up there, if we let the neighbors know that the work's going to be ongoing and be open for kids to go up
It's right
there.
across the street from me.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Couple houses over there, that's all. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 3:13, reminder of Memorial Day Parade and activities. Andy?
There's actually an announcement that
we got
I left
Carolyn?
with
Do you
Carolyn.
want me to read it, or are you good?
You going to march?
Probably. Are you?
It's on Sunday, yeah, I should be able to. So Memorial Day will be observed in Townsend on Sunday, May 25th. Members of the Townsend VFW Post 6538 and American Legion Post 199 and their Ladies Auxiliary will attend the 10:15 a.m. service at the Townsend Christian Church as a body. 2 parades and a band concert will take place in the afternoon. Do you want me to read the whole? Yeah?
It's up to you.
It's up to you. I don't mind either way. All marching units will assemble at the VFW Park in West Townsend at 1 p.m. A memorial service will be held there at 1:30 before the Veterans Group accompany the Townsend Military Band, the Townsend Fire EMS Department, and the Townsend Minuteman Company. The Townsend Knights of Columbus Council 14842, members of the clergy, town officials, numerous scout groups, Holy Bunch march east on Main Street to Canal Street. Flowers will be strewn upon the water from a decorated boat during the memorial service at the Canal Street Bridge in honor of those who lost their lives at sea. Following the service at the bridge, all units will proceed to the Riverside Cemetery for a memorial service. At each of these services, Reverend Kevin Patterson will give the invocation, the Townsend Military Band will play a hymn, volleys will be fired by the American Legion Post number 199 firing squad, taps will be played. and I will cry, because every time I hear it. The parade will disband after leaving the cemetery to later reform at the Spalding Memorial School in Townsend Center. At approximately 2:35, the Townsend Minuteman Company will fire a salute at the Bicentennial Monument in front of the school before the marching units move down Turnpike Road to the Main Street Bridge. Those who lost their lives at sea will be honored during the Main Street Bridge Memorial Service with flowers being strewn upon the water from a decorated boat. Following the service at the bridge, the marchers will parade to Memorial Hall for a memorial service. The parade will then pass around the common and go to the Hillside Cemetery for memorial service. Reverend Jeremy St. Martin will offer the invocations at all three memorial services. The Freemasons of the Grand of Massachusetts, who will join the parade at the school, will separate from the other marchers at the cemetery so that they may conduct a special memorial service at the grave of the Henry Price, the founder of Masonry in America. After leaving the cemetery, the parade will move down Highland Street to Brookline Street and into the Townsend Common. There, by Reverend Joanne Westfall, will be followed by the presentation of the Gettysburg Address by a Boy Scout and Flanders Field by a Girl Scout. The parade will disband after the memorial service at the Civil War Monument on the Common. Townsend's Memorial Day observances will continue as the Townsend Military Band presents concert from the bandstand on the Common, beginning approximately 15 minutes after the parade's conclusion. The band will open its concert by playing a fanfare in America, the Amazing Grace folk song, arranged by Hopper, Gettysburg, arranged by Moss, and the Blue and the Gray, arranged by Gunman, will be performed. Saint Hallelujah, arranged by Custer, the American Folks Rhapsody, arranged by Grundman, and Christian's Musical Memories of World War II will be included in the afternoon program. The Townsend Military Band will conclude its Memorial Day concert at approximately 5 p.m. by playing Sousa's Stars and Stripes Forever and Star Spangled Banner.
Thank you.
And
You
then
should say
it
it's
goes
rain
on.
or shine.
Yeah.
Rain or shine.
Yeah, rain or shine, folks.
And the Townsend Fire EMS Relief Association will be selling their chicken dinners and potato salad down in the Common afterwards.
Okay, appointments of personnel officials, there are none. Work session, updates and reports from Board of Selectmen, any?
I had a couple of things. I was hoping maybe we could ask Andy, or maybe we could send a letter. There's a new investor that bought the Harbor Village Mall, and maybe just reach out to him, stressing how important it is. He rents out all his rental space.
I'm sure he knows that.
But just as a welcome, and see if there's any type of support we can get to help.
I'd be all for a welcome. Welcome to
welcome.
town.
Can do that?
Yeah.
Welcome,
Yep.
it's a good idea.
And then the other thing, I was hoping, I knew we were going to talk about a work session for capital, but hopefully maybe soon we could have a work session and kind of talk about maybe some revenue ideas, sustainability, kind of an ad hoc committee. Start looking at maybe future revenues towards Townsend, trail committee stuff. Just a work session to discuss maybe forming a committee for that. I know there's a lot of residents out there that had a lot of good ideas.
I'd like to see something like that coupled with hopefully information that Andy might bring back from tomorrow's meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of wrapped around some economic development opportunities that we might have.
Exactly.
So let's see, why don't we see what Andy comes back with for more detail?
Okay.
And then
No,
kind
that
of
sounds
try
fine
to
to me,
go
and then
from
maybe
there.
we can talk about forming a committee or, the only other thing I wanted to ask about was the 119 sidewalk engineer plans. I know, and correct me if I'm wrong, but did the selectmen sign a letter for the rail trail saying they'll work on getting the sidewalks?
It's before my time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I
it
didn't
goes
know-
back a couple of years. What we had talked about, I think the board did.
Yes, we agreed,
Yeah, I think you did sign a letter on that, to reroute the sidewalk.
because the
from
money was
South
already
Street
allocated.
to the church. And so we've been carrying that funding over until such time as we're ready to move forward with that project.
So are we gonna work on maybe the RFP for the engineering plans? Because
I would wait to hear from the rail trail folks.
Right, we're kind of hung up on.
They're still
on
waiting for the
their, we didn't want to go forward with it until they had
MBTA
ownership or
stuff,
had control
right.
of the right-of-way.
Well, we originally appropriated that, it was to have the engineering plans in place for the sidewalk for 119 for the tip.
Right.
And I don't know where that is on the list, I haven't looked lately.
It's not near the top, that much I can say. I know the initial idea was, for the appropriation, was that it would fund a design from, I believe, the high school or the Harbor Mall all the way to the center of town.
Yes.
And that was, I don't know how the original dollar amount came up with, but it was not nearly enough to do that design. So that's why it initially was put off. And then it was kind of tied to the bike trail, or Squanicook Trail project.
in a much shorter
In a much
distance.
shorter distance, yeah. So, but until the trail is moving forward, it's not really prudent to move forward on the design of the sidewalk and therefore the reconstruction of 119.
I just feel so much better if the designs were in place. I'm just so worried it'll come through and they won't be done.
I'd
Or we
be
won't have the money to.
I'd be afraid that we'd do it and then something would change, or,
Yeah.
you know, I'd rather know that they can go forward. They're still waiting from to hear from the MBTA.
Now, part of that agreement, the letter that you signed, is that for the state to still, because part of the reason we went for that money.
Carolyn,
for the
it had to
design-
be like 3 years ago.
Well, the state said that they would build the sidewalk if we designed it, and they would build it
Yes,
as part
that's
of
what I
the
was-
construction of 119.
And that's gonna be the same thing for what we agreed to for the rail trail? I'm sorry, I just
Yeah,
wasn't,
yeah.
that's all I wanted to know.
Yeah, that's our expectation on that as well.
Okay, so we would just decide that the state would install it for us still?
Correct, yep.
Okay.
Colin? I have nothing. Town administrator updates and reports?
Just a couple of quick things. Mark Boynton, our new fire chief, started yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
He was here bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Had a few days off from his prior gig, so he was actually here quite a bit over the last couple of weeks on a number of short trips and meetings to get to know people and get himself acclimated and settled in. So we met yesterday, and things are going well. So looking forward to his work with the fire department. Related to that, I'd like to thank Dave Roy, our deputy chief, and Mike Grimley, our operations captain, for the work they did for the 6 or 7 weeks or so that after Don Klein left and before Mark started. They kept the department going. No glitches, nobody would notice, nobody noticed that we didn't have a chief in place. So they did a great job keeping things going.
Could we perhaps send them a letter of thanks?
Absolutely.
Please?
Yep,
Yeah, it's the second time Captain Grimley's done this. He did it before and did a good job.
But
Yeah.
I'd like a letter from the board.
Sure.
That'd be
Yep,
great.
we can do that.
Okay.
So, and just a reminder of the Devon's Household Hazardous Products Collection Center. Next dates for that are June 4th and June 7th, from 9 in the morning until noon. So, nothing else.
Oh, I had one thing I wanted to say.
Yeah.
And I know we discussed this at a previous meeting. I just want to remind people, if you didn't see our meeting, that at the Townsend Police Department, they do have a medication disposal box, which many communities now have. So if you have expired or unwanted prescription medication, you can bring it to the Townsend Police Station. It's right in the lobby. It's hard to miss. It's right on the right-hand side when you walk in the door.
Please do not dispose
Yeah,
of it
do
in the
not flush
drain.
it down the toilet, please, because it ends up in the groundwater.
Yeah, it does. We missed an announcement.
Oh, you-
Joe needs volunteers to put the flags on the graves of our veterans.
Oh, you want to read that?
Yeah. Volunteers, we need volunteers to put flags on the graves of our veterans this Friday at 10 a.m., the 23rd of May, 2014, Highland Street Cemetery. We need at least several individuals to help out. I feel it's a great honor and our duty as veterans to honor our deceased warriors. As veterans, we are obligated to perform this honor. So if you have any questions, you can call the Veteran Service Officer, Joe Mazzola, at 978-597-1700, extension 1729. But if you're not doing anything on Friday, he could really use your help.
10 to 2,
10 to 2.
or 10 to noon. Excuse me.
Did he put the hours on
Is
here?
that right?
He just says this Friday at 10
Yeah, he
a.m.
told us Friday.
He made the announcement about the recycling of the hazardous materials out in Devon. And that was good. But I didn't know if you people knew that Carla always puts that on her answering machine, so you know when the recycling is there. So if people forget, if they just call the Board of Health, they can get the information.
Yeah, I think it's on the website as well.
It is. It's on the homepage down at the bottom of the page.
Review and sign payroll and bills payable warrants.
I would move to review and sign the bills payable warrant outside session.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
I would move to sign the bills, the payroll warrant outside the meeting.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and we have no executive session as expected. So
I would move to adjourn at 9:20.
Second.
moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good night.
Good night, folks.